Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs, brothers by birth but very different in mind and spirit. Each had left their mother's den to build a home, unaware that something far older, far hungrier, had caught their scent. The first pig was the laziest, throwing together a house of straw, so thin the light could pierce through. The second pig did slightly better, binding sticks into walls and posts, but left gaps and weaknesses in his rush. Only the third pig understood the true danger of the wild and worked slowly, laying bricks and mortar with patient care. As the 3 finished their homes, deep in the shadows, the big bad wolf stirred. He had been watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His hunger sharpened like the glint of his fangs under the moonlight. The first little pig had barely settled in for his first afternoon nap when the wolf arrived. The wolf was moving silently on all 4s through grass, with cold eyes. Little pig, the wolf rasped. Let me come in. The pig, naive and frightened, shouted to the walls. Not by the hair on my chinny chin. The wolf's smile stretched unnaturally wide. His chest swelled, and with a single thunderous exhale, the straw walls scattered, the house disintegrating around the pig like a dying dandelion. The pig barely turned before a shadow fell across him. The wolf's jaws unhinged, stretching wider than any natural creature's mouth should. Rows of glistening teeth framed a dark tunnel into his throat. The pig squealed, backpedaling, but the wolf lunged. His jaws clamped down hard, trapping the pig's kicking hooves. He tipped his head back. One powerful swallow pulled the pig's head into the tight, muscular tunnel of his throat. Gulp! The pig slid helplessly downward. Darkness swallowed him as the slick walls pushed him further downward with contractions, squeezing him further into the wolf's body. His world became dark. With one last rippling squeeze, the pig was deposited into the wolf's stomach. It was far worse than he'd imagined, the walls pressing his limbs into the undulating stomach lining. The air smelled like acid and was super humid. He could hear the wet, sloshing sounds of digestion already beginning around him as the stomach acid started increasing around him. Every sound from outside was muted the moment he vanished inside. But the wolf hadn't forgotten. He licked his lips and sauntered toward the second house. The second pig had been watching the horizon, dread curling in his gut when he saw the wolf approach. The wolf's stomach was already grotesquely round, the faint shape of his brother distorting the stretched skin, shifting slightly beneath the fur. Little pig, the wolf sang. Let me come in. Not by the hair on my chinny chin, the second pig whispered, bolting the door and holding his breath. The wolf huffed. He puffed. The sticks quivered, bent, and shattered like bones underfoot. The pig darted for the open fields, but the wolf was too fast. With a leap, he landed before the pig, mouth opening wide, his hot breath washing over the trembling prey. The jaws snapped shut. The pig screamed as the wet tongue cradled him, lifting him back. He felt the tugging pull at his snout as the throat opened and the wolf swallowed. Gulp! Tight pressure enveloped him. The muscles rippled and flexed around his body, squeezing the air from his lungs as he slid downward, deeper and deeper, until the soft warmth of the stomach embraced him. Inside, the first pig felt weak, tired, and breathless. You too? His voice croaked, barely audible over the stomach's gurgling sounds. The 2 brothers huddled together in the cramped space, feeling the walls flex around them, slowly growing tighter as the wolf's digestive system awoke. The sound of his heartbeat was now joined by the rumble of acid and the squeeze of the stomach muscles locking them in place. For a moment they both sat there, pressed close, panting, too scared to speak. The stomach walls kept squeezing and folding in on them while it was making wet, sloshing sounds that sent cold shivers through their bodies. At last, the second pig whispered in a shaky voice, "Is this really happening?" The first pig swallowed hard, his snout quivering. "It is," the wolf swallowed us whole. The second pig pressed his hoof against the stomach lining, feeling the muscle flex and squeeze around them. Sliding all the way down was so tight, I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to disappear forever. The first pig huddled closer. I know. I tried to hold on to his tongue. I tried to fight, but the wolf's throat was too strong and pulled me down. The stomach walls squeezed again, tighter this time, making both pigs squirm. The space was growing smaller as the gurgling grew louder. "What do we do?" the second pig asked. "I don't know," the first whispered, "but I think this is where the wolf digests his food." The two pigs sat still, listening to the wolf's heart beating somewhere above them, while the stomach groaned and sloshed beneath them. "I'm scared," the second pig whispered. "Me too," said the first pig. "I thought my house would keep me safe. But now we're in here and there's no way out." But little did they know, far outside the wolf's belly, their clever brother was already preparing a trap. The wolf moved on to the third house. At this point, the wolf's belly was so heavy, he couldn't walk straight. The struggling shapes of the pigs beneath his fur were becoming too uncomfortable for him. He struggled to make it to the front of the brick house and knocked at the solid brick wall. Little pig, let me come in. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin." The third pig answered with sharp confidence. The wolf huffed and puffed again and again, but the brick house stood unbroken. His hunger sharpened into rage. His belly growled. The wolf climbed the roof, eyeing the chimney as his final way in. But the third pig had seen it coming. A roaring fire crackled below as the third pig was heating a pot at the bottom of the chimney until broth bubbled and steamed. As the wolf slid down the chimney, soot smearing his fur on his butthole, and he dropped straight into the boiling broth. The scalding shock sent him leaping from pot. Before the wolf could recover, the third pig seized a moment. With all his strength, the pig grabbed the wolf and, with a deep, slow inhale, stretched his piggy jaws impossibly wide. The wolf barely managed to growl as his head disappeared past the pig's lips. His fur scraped against the slick throat walls of the pig who was swallowing him alive. The wolf's legs were kicking wildly against the tightening throat, but it was no use. Gulp. The wolf's body was strong but beaten. He slid down the pig's throat as the muscles compressed him with brutal force. He descended deeper and deeper until the stomach walls claimed him. The wolf landed with a wet thud in the pig's stomach. The stomach was even tighter than his own had been, the air laced with digestive fumes so strong it burned his lungs. The third pig was ready to feast. The two pigs turned toward each other in the dark. "You look surprised," the first pig whispered. The wolf clawed at the slippery stomach lining, trying to push against the walls, but the pig's belly tensed, clenching around him in response, forcing him into an even more helpless curl. "You swallowed us alive," the second pig hissed loudly enough so the wolf could hear. "Now you know what it feels like." The stomach walls were rippling over the wolf's fur. Acid began to pool, burning slowly, as the pig's body was savoring its meal. The wolf thrashed, but every movement only quickened the stomach's reaction. The walls squeezed with sinister patience, pushing all the air out from his lungs. The two pigs held on to each other, barely moving as the stomach did its work on the big bad wolf. Hours passed, or maybe it was only minutes. Time blurred in this darkness. The wolf's movements grew slower and weaker, until at last he was still, and so the third pig's stomach finally relaxed. The third little pig took a well-deserved seat on his chair, with his belly heavy and round as he rubbed it in circles. Then all of a sudden he opened his mouth to let out a deep, thunderous "bee-warp-y," and out from the wolf's stomach, the first and second little piggies came tumbling free, flying right out of the wolf's mouth, high into the air. They landed, plunk, plunk, right onto two perfectly placed chairs at the dining table, still wide-eyed and wobbly from their strange and scary journey. The two pigs looked at their clever brother, who sat patting his swollen belly as he was growing sleepy. "You saved us," cried the first little pig. "You swallowed the wolf and burped us free," said the second. "You're the cleverest pig of all." They both cheered together. But as the room grew quiet, the first pig's stomach gave a little rumble. The second pig's did too. They looked at each other and sighed. "I'm hungry," the first little pig grumbled. "Me too," added the second. But the third little pig didn't hear them. He was already snoring, fast asleep in his chair. And from that day on, the three little pigs lived happily ever after, safe in the sturdy brick house, with the first and second pigs taking up all the household responsibilities for the third pig, who saved their lives. And they never had to worry about the big bad wolf ever again. The end.